Cool.
Right. Beautiful souls. Welcome if you are watching the replay here. We're just setting up the live as well. Beautiful. Let's take some moment to share things out.
Yes.
This is the point that everyone gets to just do the anticipation. What are they going to talk about? What's going to go through?
That's I love that. I'm waiting for it to show on my profile so then I can share it to the group. Waiting for the tag to come through.
I haven't tagged you here. So are you okay just to go to my profile and then
Yes.
find it? Because it didn't come up with the tag.
Oh.
For some reason. Probably because
share to feed. Yeah, you should be able to. That's weird. Is it because I'm Elizabeth Eve Joy, Vince, on?
Yeah, probably.
Because you can just do that and then it will show my profile and then I can share to my group. One person is here. Hello. We're just sorting out technical things.
Good morning, good afternoon. Beautiful. Hi, Tor. And anyone else that's watching, I've got mine all shared out here. So welcome you to this Illumination series chat. I'm Casey Knight, and I have been really enjoying rekindling this talk series where I bring on beautiful luminous souls who are just having these amazing experiences in life right now that are so full of information and codes that I think just should be shared with the world because there's so much value in our connection, in our sharing. And I just have had one conversation with Lizzie before, and I'm so excited to talk about exponential evolution with Elizabeth Love Joy Vince. So thank you so much for coming on with me today.
Thank you. Yeah, it's actually Eve Joy.
Oh, I'm sorry, I got it backwards.
But it's funny, isn't it, that you read it as love?
That is so funny. I didn't read it. I was going from memory, so that's just what I...
Oh, I love that. No, I wasn't like offended that you got it wrong. I was like, that's so cute. I love it. I love it, of course.
Where did that come from? Maybe that's what that means.
Maybe, yeah. I've just felt, yeah, I've recently changed my name on Facebook from Lizzie Vince to Elizabeth Eve Joy Vince, which is my full name because I felt like it was time to own my full name. So here I am.
I love that. I've had a recent name change journey as well when I had just actually when I stepped into a new role in 2019, a new name came through and it was Aurora Light. And I started to use that everywhere because I loved it. And just back in February, someone called me Aurora and I was like, my brain went, no, it's Casey. And I was like, oh, interesting. And it took me a while to come to terms with shifting things back because I do love that frequency of Aurora Light that just is that, like light dancing, but it's time to integrate all of me here and now. Yeah. So I'm glad you're feeling that same way and owning it.
Yes. Yeah. The full integration. I love that. We are on the same path as the collective. So much the collective is experiencing the same right now. So I'm sure you guys will share who are watching live or the replay. I'm sure you will relate to a lot of what we will talk about.
Absolutely, because the conversation title is Exponential Evolution. And I feel like you've really been going through this, Lizzie, and so has the collective. But I just wanted to frame it with this. I have been seeing a lot of people in their marketing and in what they're posting, sharing that one thing that's going to take you to the next level, this one tip, you know, the clickbaity types of titles, and everybody's seeking that one thing. Maybe it's this course, maybe it's this coach, maybe it's this mentor, maybe it's this one food that is going to change my entire experience on life. And I just posted yesterday for people like, stop, please stop looking for the one thing, because it's not. We're holistic beings, and every little thing that we do adds up. And people are always looking for these quantum leaps. But the quantum leap only happens when you have created all of the foundational shifts and changes in every area of your entire being, which then prepares you for that expansion into that next level. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as you're going through this exponential evolution personally.
Yeah, I feel like it almost starts with one thing, but you're not meant to seek it. It seeks you, which is frustrating as a human being, because you're like, I'm ready to awaken, I'm ready to ascend. You know, maybe you're seeing all of these people talk about their awakenings and what their life looked like before and what it looks like now. And you're like, I want that. And coming from that kind of, human mind ego space, for me, and I know for, I have a few different mentors. I like to work with different people to get different perspectives. And I just find that really fun and playful and insightful. And I know for myself and for a lot of my mentors, it was like, there was one thing that catalyzed, initiated, ignited the journey. And for me, it was my stepdad passing over the Rainbow Bridge in January. That was the one thing for me. And for some people, it's something drastic and completely life-changing, like a bereavement. Or for other people, it's, you know, it could be something extreme like a health condition, or it could be something more subtle as well. I mean, I've heard of very different things, but I feel like there are a lot of people seeking their awakening when it's like, no, it finds you, but you've obviously got to be open to receiving it. And people, I know the mind loves to know the how, so people might be thinking, well, how do I open myself up to initiate this awakening journey? And really, you start to pay attention and connect how you really feel. And for me, I felt like I was just, it wasn't that I was unhappy with my life. It was just that I felt like there was more, and I was content, but I knew that there was more. And I really wanted, I felt this, like a lot of people call it like a calling home, this feeling of like wanting to be home, which is not a place, it's like within yourself, you know, the depths of your soul, home. And yeah, it's kind of hard to articulate how that feels, and I think it feels different for everyone, but for me it was like, you know, there's more to life, and also life gets to be easier than this. And I was, for those that don't know my story, this time, well, was it this time last year? About then actually. From July to October last year, I made a lot of money, but I from hustle and from attachment to money and from a lot of money wounding and money trauma, which I've been working through. And I just knew that there was another way. I was like, I know I am meant, it's my divine right to be wealthy inside and out, to be rich inside and out. So, you know, why has it required hard work so far? And I wanted to draw a line in the sand and be like, I'm done with that.
That's beautiful. And as you're speaking and saying people might not know your story, I realized we just leapt right in. And I actually love doing it sometimes to the conversation, because it draws you in. And honestly, before I hear someone speak, sometimes their introduction and who they are, it doesn't land the same way. So I'm grateful for people to have heard your tones and to heard part of your story and part of your journey of awakening over this last year to the divine essence that you truly are, and that light and that power and all of that. But would you like to maybe give us the brief summary of, I'm actually thinking of who you were identifying as, say, about a year ago, and then who you are now, what you're doing.
Yeah, so a year ago, and it's funny because I kind of knew this, but I don't think I wanted to admit it to myself, because I knew that that self-admittance and that self-acceptance of this is the identity that I'm carrying and I'm attached to would mean the work to heal that or release that or whatever the process was. So it took me a while to come to the awareness of I was definitely a high achiever. I've always been a high achiever. And when I started to dig into my childhood, which is something that I've done for the past, 2.5 years that I've been a coach and found the personal development world and everything, that actually that's how my inner child felt. That was the only way she felt loved, was when she achieved. So, and I'm sure a lot of your audience can relate. And so yeah, that if I wasn't achieving, then I wasn't going to receive love. So I was, A+ student, got a first class honors in my degree, always did amazing in the corporate world. And then of course in my coaching business, it was okay, keep going on this high achiever train that I'm on. And hence the burnout of, and also of course when you work for yourself, there's the added part of, I don't believe this anymore, but at the time it was the work I put in is the money I get out, rather than being employed where you get a salary. So there was a lot of lack, there was a lot of fear, there was a lot of attachment, there was a lot of inner child wounding and conditioning that I've been aware of for a long time, but like I say, I wasn't ready to dig into it because I knew it would be really painful and uncomfortable. So yeah, that's a lot of the work I've been doing over the past 8 months is the healing, and that is a huge part of Ascension. People think it's up, up and up. Actually, I see Ascension like a trampoline. The deeper you go, the higher you go. And it's so important to have, I did a live stream on my profile this morning. It's so important to have the safe foundation, because if you don't, back in May, I invested in an Ascension coach, and I was investing in her from lack, from avoidance. I didn't realize I had a lot of trauma around being so emotional. And so I would suppress my emotions because I was making it a bad thing because of what I've been told throughout my life about my emotions. And so that's when about 3 months ago, I started going on my emotional journey of learning to love my emotions and see them as my superpower. And I'm an emotional authority in human design. I'm a highly emotional person. So that's been incredible. And that's just the reason why I talk so much about the human and the soul. I talk about, the healing and the spiritual work, is that both are so necessary and not one without the other, which I think some people focus on one or the other, when actually it's both.
Yeah, absolutely. That was my point at the beginning. There might be one catalyst to an awakening, but in terms of your soul and your human evolution, of your evolution on all counts, it's all of the pieces of the puzzle. And I love working with a template that I actually studied about 11 years ago. And now I teach in my Creation Coach Academy, where I support people in being able to be coaches and facilitators in this really unified field, where we make sure we're not leaving any pieces behind. And that's to use just the natural elements as a template, right? To make sure that we've got all the pieces. So there's earth representing the physical world and the physical body, and then air representing the mental plane, our belief systems, and then the literal air outside of us. Water is that emotional realm, the heart journey, all of that. We have spirit being, the essence realm. And then there's also fire, which is the action realm, right? Because I find that if you're missing any one of those, like body, mind, heart, soul, and actually doing the things, then your creation is not going to take form, right? Anything we want to do, anything we want to be, anything we want to shift, we need to bring it all forward so that it can all, not all at once, right? Sometimes we focus on one piece at a time.
Yes.
It all counts, right? And I know for myself, I have for example, left my body behind when I've been really focused on intellectual pursuits, or when I brought my business online. I just forgot about the physical realm, and I was very immersed in the business and all of the other things. And that doesn't serve anybody, myself included as well, right? Like the body first, we need the emotions, we need the belief systems and the minds and the thoughts, and we need the soul, and we need to actually do the things that we are being guided to do. Otherwise, it's just this house of cards.
Yeah, that's so true. And I'm always try to be mindful of that and consciously aware of am I leaving anything behind? Because it is, when you're doing a lot of like the spiritual work and the ascension work, playing in higher realms, it is easy to obviously get disconnected from your body. And equally, if you're so much in your body, you forget that you are a multidimensional being. So, and then totally, like you said about the action, and I do think there are, or do you feel that there are kind of phases for things too? And it's also about what we're making each thing mean. Like, what are we making the action mean? And for me, I was unable to take action without it being from ego and attachment and wounding and trauma and fear and all of those things. So I kind of had to go cold turkey and not create anything for a while, because I needed that time and that space to come into myself and reconnect with my soul, my higher self, and allow myself to be guided to take action in that way. And space is like a constant thing for me. I'm like, I need a lot of space. I love space to create, space to rest. Space is like been the most, and I didn't have that this time last year, back-to-back clients, working all the time. So now it's like, that's like a standard I have for myself in my life, a lot of space.
I'm hearing that from a lot of people. And I think that was one of the big lessons that COVID really brought into the forefront for all of us, to go, holy smokes, the busyness just doesn't actually serve us, right? I know many people now that are in this space of going like, well, life's kind of back to normal-ish, but I don't want to go back to how it was, where I was rushing around and filling my day and really feeling that squeeze from that hustle energy that really does often come from that place of scarcity, like you were talking about, the have to, the squeeze. I also know a lot of people have been really feeling that evolution of the process of needing to let things fall away so you can really come inside and have that space internally as well as in your life, where you just get time to be and process and integrate and digest, because there is so much happening. And if you don't do that, it doesn't ever fully land.
Right. That embodiment piece is so important. And even the other day, I realized that, I thought I was connected to my body because I love to work out. I've got all my motor centers defined in human design. I'm a manifesting generator. I've got so much energy. But actually, I was doing some yoga, and I realized that actually I'm not as connected as I thought I was. And then, it's very easy to then go into the judgment and the shame. And that's something that I've really been, something I've hugely shifted, is rather than approaching healing or mistakes, quote unquote, that I make, or things that I do that I'm like, oh, that wasn't soul-led or whatever, is to approach the healing and the forgiveness. Well, it is forgiveness from a loving, compassionate space. And I was saying in my live stream this morning is that we come from fixing energy in so many things, in healing, in ascension, in exercise, even in quote unquote good things. And it's so, the biggest thing, well, one of the biggest things, because I feel like there's a few, is really raising my awareness and becoming super intentional with, okay, like, what is the reason why I'm doing this? What is it soul-led, or is it, attachment, wounding led?
And the other big one that I find for myself and also for clients is the should, right? Doing it just because I should, which is the opposite of soul-led, right? It's that energy of I have to, but then it's like, but why? Why? Like, actually, do you? That was my hugest learning, I would say about 3-4 years ago, when I started working with some beautiful coaches in repatterning, and I would saying, well, I have to do this. And they would be like, no, you don't. And I'd be like, no, of course I do. Of course I do. I have to do this. And they were like, no, actually, you're putting that on yourself. And I'm, no, but the excuses that were coming. And I realized from all outside of myself. And I have many years preached listening to the body, listening to the soul. I've been practicing it too, but there's all of these next levels and next layers. So when we're saying that you realized you weren't as tapped into the body as you thought you were, what I'm just kind of equating these two scenarios where I thought I was soul led, but I noticed these other places where it was something else. But instead of that guilt and shame and judgment of like, I'm not doing as well as I thought I did, what I really like to see it as is we can't see things until we're in the place and space where we're able to see and witness them. And there's all of these different layers, and it is an evolution. So until you have the capacity to perceive it, it's gonna just right over you, right? So instead of being broken or needing to fix something, my favorite energy right now to tap into is just fine tuning.
Ooh, yeah.
Fine tune and refine the frequency and the experience in whatever way that's coming through.
I love that. Probably about a month ago, one of my mentors said to me, she was like, Lizzie, I sense that last year, how you ran your business was like very much like problem solving drive, which is obviously human survival instinct. It's like, there must be a problem to solve. We love a challenge. we love a challenge to solve. And she was like, I feel like you're doing the same with your healing. Like, you're actually looking for something to heal. And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I am. Even, the mind does crazy things, and can be quite funny sometimes to observe. It will, create problems for you, or try to pose a problem to you that's not really there. And then you start like questioning things that you wouldn't ordinarily. I remember I started questioning my relationship, and I took a step back and was like, whoa, these things that I'm saying aren't actually true. They're not true. They're just they're my mind looking for something to solve or something to fix. So something that, yeah, my mentor said to me was, and she even said it to me yesterday as well, she was like, rather than looking for things to fix or heal, or well, to fix in general, but looking for things to heal, just go and live your life. And as things come up, know, and this is like the self-trust piece of knowing that, and this is the nervous system regulation, this is the somatic healing, this is the inner child healing, this is the embodiment, this is the body connect, like the body. Did a live the other day and I was like, I love, and I think I said it again this morning, I love my body. I love how we communicate. I love it's such a beautiful portal of messages for me, and I love it. And I love that I've developed this relationship where I listen to it all the time. I connect to it all the time, and I ask it, is, a bit like with a child, like, is there anything that you need? Is there anything you want to share with me? Sometimes it's like, no, I'm good. And sometimes it's like, oh, there's a little bit of tightness here. And I'm like, oh, okay, where's that tightness coming from? And instead of like, I need to fix the tightness, it's like a curiosity. And I realized the other day, I feel like you can only be curious about something if you have that loving compassion first, and then you can kind of go into the curiosity. And that's what I do with my body. I create that loving compassion, and then I kind of inquire with my body to see what's going on. And it's told me so much about past lives, parallel lives, whatever you want to call them, ancestral blocks, like inner child trauma, like so many things. And we are so disconnected from our bodies ordinarily.
Yeah, ordinarily, because we're taught to be getting all of the input from everything else. We let go of our own internal authority. And I rant on this a little bit quite often, because we are taught from childhood to look to other people for the answers, right? Our parents, our teachers, society, whoever's in charge of us.
Doctors for health.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't ever have a process in the typical culture that brings all of our power back and teaches us to go, you know what, you actually have wisdom inside of you that you can tap into if you learn and practice the skill set of learning to listen and have, like what I'm hearing you say, literal conversations with your body. And we can begin that process by literally going like, oh, I feel a twinge. And yeah, instead of going, what's wrong? How can I fix it? Getting curious and being like, hey, shoulder, what's going on?
Yeah, exactly.
And I was just actually teaching on this inside the Creation Coach Academy, or actually with some Oracle cards that I have yesterday. That beginning phase of starting a conversation for so many people feels really awkward, right? And then I hear them say, well, how do I know? How can I hear it? I don't hear it. Well, yeah, your shoulder's not going to grow a mouth and speak to you out loud, but I'd love to hear how you process this information. So what I do hear, like Claire audiently and Claire cognizantly, and I just get downloads. But for most people, I like to say, like, use your imagination. What do you think your shoulder might say? And then start to trust that imagination and lean into it and follow it instead of just writing it off and saying, oh, I'm making it up. What's your process for connecting with your body and communicating?
There is no quick fix, like with anything. It's about I just feel like everything links back to self-trust, absolutely everything. And I talk about this safe foundation all of the time, and that safe foundation is self-trust, and that can only be cultivated through the healing, the inner child healing, the somatic healing, whether it's breath work or even sound healing. I mean, gosh, there are so many different types of healing. And so what it's been for me to be able to communicate with my body is, it's been, I guess, I love this question because I'm like, I've never thought about it. Developing a spiritual connection and trusting that spiritual connection, whether that be to my soul and higher self, whether that be to my spirit team, spirit guides, whether that be to I now have like alien interactions, whether that be I mean, my stepdad is on my spirit team, you know, I always ask him for guidance. And there's I was laughing to one of my mentors the other day, because I was like, I never thought I'd be this woo-woo, and I don't really like that term, but I'll say it for the sake of it, this woo-woo person that like interacts with spirits and sees aliens and like speaks to, you know, well, it looks like I'm speaking to myself, I'm not, but like, you know, I never thought I was like, you know, I used to think that like psychics were a load of like BS, to be honest. Like, I was like, how do they know? What kind of bullshit is this? But like now it's really hard for me to explain, because it's not been a linear journey. It's been a just a deepening. And I really feel that, again, it was initiated by my stepdad passing over the Rainbow Bridge, because I mean, he was diagnosed with lung cancer, and then he lived for 18 months after the diagnosis, but you can never really prepare for someone to pass on. And so as much as we try to prepare ourselves, I know my mom and my stepdad's sister also have a spiritual connection, which is really nice to have. Like, we never used to have spiritual conversations, now we do, which is really lovely. But I wanted to, because I always felt such a deep soul connection with my stepdad. I wouldn't have called it that time. I would have called it like I wouldn't have even called it a synergy, but that's what it felt like. It felt like a synergy, like our souls had met before. Just so much love between us, so much unconditional. I mean, he taught me what unconditional love is. I always say that. And so it was me wanting to, you know, because I've always believed in, I used to call it the afterlife before, but I've always believed in the afterlife and that our souls live on and reincarnation. I've always believed in that kind of thing. So I knew that as much as his body was gone, he was still around. And I wanted to, and at first it was a grieving mechanism of, he's gone, I've got to hold on. And then slowly over time, it's been less about holding on, and it's been more about an initiation to my spiritual awakening, to my discovering or reconnecting with my spiritual gifts, you know, journeying back to my soul and the truth of my soul. And yeah, that's what I would say about my kind of spiritual journey.
I really hear when you're speaking into this that the journey has been about all of the pieces, right? Again, the catalyst, not just
it has.
The catalyst was your stepfather passing on, but it's all of the little things, that being able to connect to your body and hear your body's wisdom is from all of those other places and spaces. So that evolution in developing your intuition, your connection, your psychic senses, the self-trust, it's all weaving together. And that can sometimes, I feel, make it a little bit overwhelming.
Overwhelming.
Right? Because it's like, there's so much to
I'm thinking if I had this before, I'd be like, that is so much stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So following the flow and where you're at and what's presenting to you, because there's not any one particular order. I know people who basically did the opposite of you and really started the conversations with the body first. And that is what really supported their self-trust and turned on their capacity to talk with spirit. And you kind of had the inverse, like there's no one journey, there's no one way to do it. And I always just find it so fascinating, right? And there's so much richness in hearing everybody else's story, so people can hear that there is going to be no one right way. So I personally have always had a connection to spirit since I can remember, seeing ghosts, talk to you know, spirit and dead people and aliens and things like that my entire life. So it was never an awakening into that, but there's been so many different levels and layers of my evolution, and really tapping into my body's wisdom was one of the things that accelerated my capacity to connect with spirit, because body has all of it, right? Your DNA has more information than even, like, people talk about tapping into the Akashic library, but you've got almost basically the entire universe's multiverses coding inside of your body through the DNA, which is connected to the all that is. So there's so much that we can tap into from going in. And I'm sure you've felt this, but I'm just feeling like it needs to be said. When you really fully allow it to be fully expressed, there's no difference between going out to connect with spirit and going all the way in, right? It leads you to the
For me,
same
it's
place.
never an out thing. It's never, it's like, it feels like it's out, but I know that it's like, it's almost like a projector screen that's being like shone out from within me. So it's like I can see it on the outside, but I know that it's within me. It's just being kind of reflected on the outside. And this is where I was saying earlier, so many, especially if and I say this with so much love, because this was me back in May. When you're wanting to have your spiritual awakening and ascension, whatever you want to call it, from that place of fixing energy, from that place of, you know, wanting to escape, you know, wanting to escape, I don't know, your current reality, your 3D reality, or your emotions, which was my case, or bad relationship. I mean, it could be so many different things, when actually, like, spirituality, ascension, spirituality, spiritual awakening, it's all of it. It's like, you know, people separate healing and spirituality. It's like, no, healing is part of it, because if you, like, I cannot stress this enough, I always say this, if you don't have that safe foundation that's built on the healing, you will not have the self-trust to be able to, you know, like we said, communicate with your body, just as an example, because you'll, like, there has been, and this is where I'm saying, it's like I'm seeing like a river, like a stream, or like woven, like pieces of thread that are like interweaving together, because it's not a thing, a step-by-step process. And I'm sure, like, so many of us have heard this before, healing is not linear, because it really isn't. And the only, like, we try to make it linear from our minds because we like to know what's coming. But really, like I was saying, like my mentor shared with me, it comes when you're ready. And that's a bit of a tough one to get your head around, a bit of a paradox, because you're just like, but I feel ready, but it's not coming. And it's like, well, are you actually ready? And then there's healing even to be done around the being ready, because there were so many things that I wanted to be ready for. For instance, I had a lot of trauma and wounding around having a business, around having clients, around making money, because of my experience. And I know, of course, that goes back to my childhood and my ancestry and parallel or past lifetimes. Like, that's the other thing. I see my parallel lives, past lives all of the time. And every time I go into my body, I connect to my parallel lifetimes, which is really cool part of it as well. But yeah, I had so much trauma and wounding around clients, business, money, that consciously I was like, I'm ready to have a business again. I'm ready to have clients again. I'm ready to make money again. And so the mind up here is like, yeah, let's go, woohoo. And I feel no judgment from myself there, but I feel like there was a little bit of ego with like, come on, Lizzie, it's time to make money. You know, the high achiever coming back. And I call it the rubber band phase. And you're kind of in the rubber band phase of different things throughout your entire life. And it's about having the awareness of when you're kind of going from one thing to the other. But what I realized is that in my body, somatically, on like a nervous system level, I was not ready one bit. My nervous system was completely shattered. Like when I thought about the idea of making money, having a business, signing clients, my body went into freak out mode. But the only way I knew that is because I allowed myself to feel. And that's where, you know, I feel like the initiation to personal development is mindset work. But I don't just believe, I know that that only gets you so far. And I really do believe that the body is our greatest messenger because of, like you said, the DNA that it carries. And I can't remember his name. I'll have to find it, but I had it from someone else too, about junk DNA. Scientists think that 98% of our DNA is junk DNA, when actually it's not junk. There is so much wisdom in that DNA. And they say we have 2 strands. I think we have actually 12. So it's like we've barely tapped in to that. And when people talk about ascension, this is like, might be pretty out there for some people, what they're talking about is literally your DNA changing at a cellular level from being carbon based to being light based. And that might be like, what? I don't even understand that. Don't worry, I didn't understand for a long time either. And there's also elements of spirituality that it's a feeling, and the moment the mind gets involved and tries to rationalize and apply logic, it's just like sometimes it's actually not even possible to understand some of this stuff, because the mind, it wasn't created for the mind to understand. So I don't know how I got into that. The body, it's all about the body.
Absolutely. So like, we like to think of our bodies as these physical things that are solid, though, that are like, you know, this is the physical realm, and in our experience it is, but actually nothing is solid, which can give you a bit of an existential crisis, right? To be like, actually, you can't actually even touch anything, because all it is the molecules, the like atoms and electrons that are spinning so quickly that it creates a force field. So nothing ever touches anything. Like, that is just wild. And it's also just like, we're made of light when it really comes down to it, right? It's energy that is slowed down enough that it seems and we perceive it to be physical, right? So in my experience, the ascension and evolution process that we're going through is about coming back into the awareness of how everything actually works and how we actually are all of it at once, right? You were talking about parallel lives and past lives, and it's just about expanding our consciousness first to be able to see and witness and feel through all of the different dimensional lenses and densities, and understand, understand. So not understand from the mental level, but understand our connection to absolutely everything. And through that connection, then the physical changes occur, right? So we are really experiencing right now some physical changes in our bodies, right? But really, it's more that perception of remembering who we are. And you talk about healing being the foundation and the catalyst, but the healing eventually becomes this, it's kind of a silly word, but holding, like just bringing everything back into unity, to have the capacity to hold it all and understand it all and see everything. Because for a long time, humanity has been playing in like just this little realm of, we're separate from everything. We're all separate and we're only in our own zone. And truly, it's like, I see that awakening as like the first, like, oh, there's more, right? And the ascension process is being like, oh, I have this 360-degree view of all spaces, places, dimensions, and experiences that are all happening in the now.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. One of my mentors put it like really simply. She was like, every timeline is stacked in the now. So we see time as linear because that's how humans have interpreted time for our advantage, well, maybe not so much now, but initially for our advantage. And actually time I see as more of like I see it almost like a Jenga block. So like when you jump a timeline or quantum leap, which, you know, a lot of people talk about in regards to money, for me that has massively happened on a spiritual level. Like, whoa, it's like, of course it's mind-blowing because the mind literally can't comprehend it. And how I see it is like you're just going to different parts of the Jenga stack, but it's all now, it's all happening right now. And again, that can be really difficult to get your head around. But I mean, even like this morning, I just felt, and I have been feeling, such a deep connection to the now. And I invite my clients to do this, and anyone that I come across, really, anyone that I speak to cultivate a deep connection with the now, because you will realize that everything is already there. Everything is perfect. Everything is whole. There is nothing to fix. There is nothing to do. And you come into this state of inner peace, inner calm, inner bliss. And that is our natural state. That is how every single moment of every single day gets to be. When people talk about duality, it's like there's still things happening externally. Like, you know, there might be things that go wrong, quote unquote, in your day, but you have that anchor. I feel like that's the word. It's like the anchor of the now that you can always come back to remember. And one of my mentors says that, she's like, it's just remembering over and over again. you just keep remembering. And like I say, if you get lost or you get off track or you get confused, or, you know, you get sucked into fear, like, that's okay. You know, don't beat yourself up. Like, develop the conscious awareness and then come back to the now moment. And that is like at the core of everything that I do, is like, because it's also really grounded feeling. It's that centeredness of Mother Earth supporting you, and, you know, the higher realms, also universe, source, God supporting you as well. And it's like, you feel, so anytime anyone watching you feel unsafe, you feel unsupported, you feel unheld, the energies, yeah, come back to the now. It's so beautiful. It's like magic. It's so beautiful.
I agree. I work in the 0 point and the present moment now all of the time, constantly. That is my favorite practice. And it's so funny because it's not the sexy thing. It's not the thing that sells. It's not what people are going to click on. And yet it's the most transformational and powerful practice, that presence field, and actually spending time inside of it and allowing it to anchor into your being. And I feel like many people really have, over the last few years, been learning how to do that. And that's a complete paradigm shift from what we have been doing, right? Is really existing in the past or the future, right? We're not taught, unless you happen to have practiced meditation or certain different, you know, like spiritual practice, religious practices, but it's not what we do in school. It's not what our parents teach us. It's not the common way of being yet in our present culture, right? Just being in the now moment, I feel like, is the greatest evidence that this universe is benevolent and made of love. Because if you have a calm nervous system, not if you're feeling like trauma and that squeeze of the past, but any single person I've ever met who's ever been able to meet that present moment now has felt that bliss, has felt that perfection in the moment. It's inevitable, and it's eternal, and it's always, and it just holds all of the keys for us right now. So I love that we're talking about exponential evolution and growth and expansion, but the conversation is circled into that present moment, be here now, right? Like Baba Das said, just be here now.
Yeah, I just felt like the energy really settle and like just felt us in such a peaceful, calm cocoon. That's another of my I love to be in the now moment, and sometimes I love to just be in it and see what comes through. Sometimes I love to create like a love cocoon where you're just like, and sometimes it feels like the womb. And I don't know, I think we spoke about the Sophia code previously, but she talks about, you know, the womb of nothing, of no thing, where it's just like there is nothing, but you feel so supported and so held. And it, like you say, it is the most powerful tool for anyone and everyone, because it's available to anyone and everyone. And no matter what you're going through externally, no matter what you experience, it's something that it's an ever constant. And it's the I am field of potentiality. So what does make it sexy for some people is when I say that is the state of receiving, because you like think about being in the present. You can't, I kind of compare it to like animals or small children, like babies or kids before they've been conditioned, to help people to understand this. It's like you feel nothing but unconditional love, curiosity, compassion, excitement, and there's no attachments or thoughts or beliefs or any of that. What does that mean? Like you're open. You're open to receive. And it's like, even I notice like the things that happen externally from me being in that space, like the deepened love with my partner, the deepened love for myself. Obviously that's internal, the deepened love for myself, and that's being mirrored in my partner. But you know, just the way that you then see the universe supporting you and you co-creating with it, it's like you're like, I had this magic inside of me all along. Like, why did nobody tell me? We're telling you now.
Yes, it's the most beautiful, brilliant counterpoint as well to all of the fear and scarcity, right? Because when you're in that space, you feel the love that actually is what everything is made of, because you're connected to it, you're in it. That beautiful divine mother energy, the void space of the infinite nothing and everythingness, like all of it, depending on how you're conceptualizing it. But I know that it can be a terrifying thought for people. The void, again, existential nightmare. People are terrified of nothingness.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, that is that is a good point. And that's where the self-trust.
Yes, it's the perception of nothingness. I remember even when I was like, maybe like 13, 14, and I had this deep connection to spirit. I always felt quite safe, even though my childhood life was quite a shit show, to be perfectly honest. I always had a connection to spirit that was like, don't worry, you'll grow up and you'll be an adult and everything will be amazing. Everything will be all right. So I always felt a peace inside me, and I wasn't afraid of death. I knew life went on. I wasn't afraid of really anything except for the void. I was terrified of the void because I pictured it as an expanse of nothingness, like the emptiness of space, where it was literally empty. And it wasn't until I started practicing meditation and breath work and had all of these different experiences where I entered into the void and I was like, oh, it's everything. And there was also that love, that peace, that connection. So our perception of what it can be and what it actually is can be those two different things. So I'm so glad we had this conversation, because it is very illuminating and brought back some memories.
I know, I love that, and I love what you said, and you've shared a few things a few times about, you know, it is, and that's something important for me to remember, is like I have jumped a lot of timelines, and to remember that, like, okay, it's like sometimes I have conversations with my partner and he's almost like he doesn't say it, but his energy is almost like, slow down, like I'm trying to keep up, slow down. That could be being a Gen and a Gemini as well. He's a Virgo and very laid back and chilled and organized, so we balance each other very well. But even something that like I've like introduced my partner to, like you said, is the breath work, because I feel like that is even that in itself can be scary, especially like Kundalini fire breath. That brings up a lot of the short inhales and exhales, and I mean there are many different types of breath work, but just I feel like there's an initiation for everyone, right? And you said the people watching this are going to be at different points. Nobody's behind, nobody's ahead. But like, yeah, start somewhere. So even if it's just like, even if it's just something like that can, because that's the I recently rediscovered the gift of sound healing, and the Om sound. And I realized that the Om, I kept seeing as a circle, not just because of the O. And then I realized it's the giving and the receiving. It's that circuit. It's that wave. It's the wave coming in and the wave coming out. And that is, at least, if I think back to when I first started spiritual practices, for me, it was as simple as inhale, it felt like the wave was coming, and then exhale, the tide comes out. And it's I mean, I'm all grand rising, Sanj. It gets to be so simple. Like, I'm all about simple. I don't know about you. Anything that's complicated, I like to switch off.
I agree. And that's the foundation of my meetings, my practices, everything like that, is taking a few breaths in. Anybody who's ever done anything with me knows that we almost always begin with a breath into the belly, into the heart, into the crown, and then into the field around us. And especially if you've done that a few times and you've taught your body what to expect, it primes myself and my clients and the people I work with to almost immediately enter that zero space and the sacred space and the presence portal. And it's just, it can be instant magic. But I also know people that are very uncomfortable taking deep breaths, and it feels like they're going to hyperventilate or panic if they're trying to. So if you're encountering that, that's an indication of the nervous system being super activated. And there is the healing work that is the foundation that we were speaking into before that would need to happen, because the 0 point can only be accessed in a calm nervous state. And we have all of these different experiences in life, and like, you can drink some coffee, you can have traffic, you can have thoughts that'll like, activate your nervous system, and you might be able to bring it into relaxation with a few breaths if you have created that foundation. But if that's not accessible for you, please start with seeking some support, whether it's somatic work or breath work, with somebody who can support you through the releasing of the trauma, someone who is actually really, like, not just someone who says they work with trauma, but someone who is very well versed in it, because it is a pretty big thing, and it's the foundation, right? The foundation. So being able to breathe it's one of those things. Doesn't sound very sexy. It's not what people, are looking for as that one thing, but honestly, it is. If I had to pick just one thing, it would be those breaths.
I love that. I love that so much. And you're, about being trauma informed, like, that was so important for me. And even like, I feel like the reason why I'm so vulnerable and open is because I have had so many experiences of putting people on a pedestal and seeing myself as so much less. And I've got so long to go. And I just want to be vulnerable with your audience right now, anyone watching live or watching the replay, that, literally yesterday morning, I woke up, and, every day can be different as well. Sometimes I wake up and I feel so peaceful. Some days I wake up and I feel huge anxiety in my body. And I did have anxiety for years. I did, carry around that anxious feeling with me permanently. I didn't realize until I realized. um so and I love it when things like that come up now, rather than being like, oh great, the anxiety's here again, for goodness sake, I thought you'd be gone by now. But actually to see it as such, like we were saying about the body being a portal, see it as a portal and a messenger, and just inquire with that compassion and that curiosity. Because yesterday morning I woke up and I was freaking out, and I was freaking out about the amount of space I had. And previously I was saying, I really desire, last week I was saying, I really desire space. I really want lots of space. That's all I want. I just want space. And then the space, I create the space. But because my nervous system, my childhood was very chaotic, and there wasn't, nobody could hold space for me. And I've done a lot of forgiveness work around my parents around that. But so holding space for myself, and even, creating that safe space to hold myself, has been the most important thing. And having, like you say, that trauma-informed support to help you to do that, because you might do what I did and try and run away from it or suppress it or avoid it because it's so painful and it's so uncomfortable. And I know for me, facing my anxiety was, but with the support that I got to regulate my nervous system, that was the most amazing thing that I did, because now I can do it myself. So yesterday, woke up, my nervous system was freaking out, like, what the hell? What are we, high achievers back? Like, there must be something we can do to fill the space. Like, there's too much space. This is really uncomfortable. And I was able to calm myself, to breathe, to journal, do some yoga, do some Kundalini, and speak to my mentor and come to a really grounded, safe space. But equally, that hasn't happened instantly. That's been a process. So don't beat yourself up about anything, basically.
The tools work, but they work in layers and levels, like you were saying, and it is not linear. It's very much more like a spiral path, often I find. So, you're not only spiraling upward, but inward, and then you'll encounter things like anxiety and be like, what, you again? But you're meeting it again at a different space with a different perspective and different tools that you can apply with all of these opportunities to move through it in a new way. And the tools that you can acquire on the journey, and there's so many out there, like we can't list them all, but you find the ones that work for you. They do work when you work them, but it does take consistency. It does take applying it. You can't just learn it and not do it, because that is actually not going to get you what you actually want. So there's that dedication to the practice that allows for the exponential evolution, right? There's all of these things behind the scenes that people don't always see when they're witnessing someone's ascension journey or their business journey, or all of those things. They're interrelated, right?
Yeah. And that's why I love to be so vulnerable and intimate in you as well, so that people can see. Like, I love to see the layers for myself and then share the layers with others. And like you say, I love how you put it. It's like, there's layers to it. And I really do feel like we're going to be facing the same things throughout our entire lives. But it's just going to be different in different ways, and in different kind of, and we will kind of, there'll be just different angles. And like you say, that spiral. Like, I really feel like money, from having a astrology reading on my south node and my north node, is like thing of my life. It's like my relationship with money, which is of course my relationship with love, right? Because they have the same frequency, and that's like really starts with love of myself. So that's what I'm in the depths of at the moment, is really cultivating that deep inner love for myself, for where I'm at right now.
Yeah, we all have life themes that we definitely will keep revisiting, right? And the things that we're here to really learn, and the lessons. And also, I just want to speak into, there is also the potential for actual healing, holding, complete rewriting of the nervous system, complete rewriting of the neural pathways, where you might have had something as a trigger in the past that you can literally no longer have as even a thing until you go, oh wow, yeah, that used to be a thing. And that is possible as well. So, you know, there are certain things that you can completely shift and change on the evolutionary journey, and other things that again are themes, right? That you're just here to work with love, work with, some people are here to work with balance, for some it's relationships, right? Where there's going to be those extra windows of learning, but there really is such dramatic shifts that are possible, right?
Yeah.
Where you can shift it. Be wrapping up here very shortly, but I want to speak into one little part about my journey, because yeah, I've been on this like spiritual path, whatever, deeply for my entire life, but I still have so many of these evolutions and clearings and things. And I used to be someone who was really not good when I was tired. Like I would be a huge cow. I would just be so bitchy. I would be so mean to people. I would easily cry. I couldn't show up as me. And it wasn't until I learned this technique called belief repatterning that I then became a licensed practitioner of, to rewire my neural pathways about that belief. Because I, in the past, would just try to get as much sleep as I can. And I would say it's for the good of humanity. So I prioritized sleep because I couldn't show up as me if I wasn't sleeping enough, right? So I was really good. But then I had a child, and just getting enough sleep wasn't actually an option, right? It was no longer up to me to just be able to get enough sleep and then the problem solved. So I woke up really feeling like I was going to have an awful day, because my kid woke me up like 13 times because she was sick and I had to go to work, and I was just already about to cry about it when I opened my eyes in the morning. And I went through and I did this repatterning. And that day, I actually had a great day. And it wasn't until I came home and it was like 7 o'clock at night, I realized, holy smokes, I didn't get enough sleep. And then I could feel physically tired, but I hadn't had any of those emotional triggers, and I'd been able to just be me instead of being that other version that I thought I had to play. And I repatterned a couple more times over those nights, like in the morning when I would wake up after it had been a really rough night with my child. And then one morning, about the fourth time it had happened, because you know, you got lots of sleepless nights when you've got a kid, I was about to start repatterning, and I went, wait, no, it's totally gone. I don't have that energy of everything is awful and life sucks when I woke up. And this was 4 or 5 years ago. And I've just been living my life, prioritizing getting sleep, obviously, but never having that same catastrophic energy that I used to have when I was tired. And just the other morning, it was another weird night. My kid's 6. It still happens sometimes. I got maybe 4 hours of sleep. And I woke up and I was kind of meh to my husband. I'm like, this is annoying. And I was like, and I just went and I did some Qigong for half an hour. And I used a different tool because I had already repatterned it, but I was just a little like, I didn't want to have to deal with this. Did some Qigong perfectly fine, right? And I had to take a moment and be like, acknowledging that that used to be a thing that would have ruined my entire day and the days of everybody who encountered me, because I would have been a bitch. And I shifted that completely. It's not even in my experience anymore. So like what might be a huge thing can be completely healed and whole and unified. Not to say that there'll never be other challenges, because they'll present too, but
Yeah.
I felt like I wanted to share that story because it was very recent that I was reminded of it.
My huge thing was the attachment to money and clients and business as being draining, and it burns you out. And like when I say like my nervous system was completely like shut down and like, nope, we're not going, like freaking the F out. Like it was like the biggest anxiety I've ever experienced. And I was able, and now I'm able to, like, I cannot even believe that now I feel safe around doing those things. And it's like, sometimes we surprise ourselves. Like, wow, like, and celebrate yourself for those things, I always say.
Absolutely. And it's the nervous system and the neural pathways, right? Like those are connected, by the way, right? Your belief systems and the way your brain is wired affects how
Oh
your
yeah.
nervous system is
Oh yeah,
experiencing
the mindset.
reality, right?
Oh,
So not just the mindset, but the literal neural grooves in your brain are connected to your nervous system. So we do have tools available to completely shift our experience because we have that power, right? Humans are incredibly resilient, but we do need support and we do need the practice. And for basically everyone who's moving through this crazy journey of evolution, like just being alive on the planet right now, you're going through a crazy evolutionary journey because a lot is happening, a lot is transpiring, everything is shifting, everything is changing. I know what I want to say is to reiterate, use your tools, get support, whatever that looks like for you, develop that self-trust, connect with the body and breathe and consistently apply the things because it doesn't work to just do it once, right? It's that consistency that allows us to have that exponential evolution, right? The one thing is only the catalyst. It's every other choice that you make that's going to support you in the growth and the expansion.
yeah.
So what would you say would be what you would like people to take away from our conversation today about supporting themselves through this massive evolution that they're on right now?
Yeah, like, everything takes practice. That's what keeps coming through for me every single day, is like, everything, the more you practice it, like, I don't want to say the better you get, because it's not like you, but it's, you're either changing neural pathways or you're regulating your nervous system, whatever it is. For me, a recent thing has been wanting to cleanse and detox the body. And so I've been practicing fasting and cutting out certain foods, and sugar has been a really hard one. And and I was speaking, my boyfriend has been fasting for months, and well, not like he fasts for like 24 hours, he just eats dinner. And I said to him, I was like, it really does get easier, doesn't it? He's like, yeah, like at first, and some days you're like, oh, I'm so hungry, but it's like for a split second, and then you're like, oh no, I'm fine. Because we were saying, like, of course, our nervous system, our body is programmed to keep us alive. So any sign of hunger, it's like, oh, you're going to die, you got to eat now. But actually, and I'm not saying fast or don't fast, but what our bodies can last, is it like 4 weeks without eating? And sometimes it'll be like 4 hours later, and I'm like, I'm going to die, I'm so hungry. And it's like, no, you're not going to die. So it's also, yeah, a practice of awareness, practice of breath, practice of nervous system regulation, practice of, yeah, subconscious rewiring, all the things. Practice, practice, practice.
I enjoyed how you were hesitant to say practice makes it better. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that. Practice is literally the only way we get better at anything.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's walking, learning to walk, learning how to drive a car, learning how to build a business, learning how to regulate the nervous system. Practice is the key, and nobody also wants to hear that. I used to be
No.
a professional hula hoop teacher, right? Like I'm wildly good with a hula hoop, and my students would look at me and go, "How did you get so good at that?" And I was like, thousands of hours of practice. And they're like, "Oh, I don't
Yeah.
want to practice." And I'm like, "Well, then you're never going to get good at it. Sorry." That's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So you do get better and it does get easier. I feel like when you have that foundation from the tools that we're talking about, the very basic things, the awareness, the self-love, all of that, you become more resilient.
You
And it
do.
might not feel like it now, because I know a lot of these are new practices that you're introducing, but sometimes it can get harder before it gets easier. And that's one part of the journey. But it literally does get easier. And everyone that I know that has been doing this stuff for a long time, say 5-10 years at least, if not more, life does get easier. like all of life. And it's not that there's not challenges coming your way, it's that you have the resiliency and the tools and the ability to tap into guidance and the present moment and the perspective to make your capacity to move through them easier because you've practiced it. So that's really what it comes down to. It does get easier, right? And then sometimes you have a challenge that is hard, but your capacity to navigate it really improves. The tools work if you work it. I had a student in my academy yesterday saying that, because it's been a wild year. They're my first students through this Creation Coach Academy are coming up to their 11th month. It's a 1-year program. And at first they were in overwhelm and they're like, it's so much because I'm teaching them all about the elements, how to build a business, how to coach. And it was a personal initiation and people's lives were turned upside down, all kinds of things. And they're like, it works if you work it. This stuff actually works. Now I'm on the other side and it works. And they're just like, wow. And I'm like, yes, exactly. Like it gets harder sometimes before it gets easier, but then it does work. So I just really want to give people that in case they're feeling in that overwhelmed space. Like it's too much.
Yeah, you get to a point where you're like, and it's not an affirmation, it's like a deep inner knowing of like, anything that comes my way, I can hold it. And you're not saying it to make yourself feel better or with any doubt. You're like, I know it because I have the foundation of tools to support me and to hold me. And, that centeredness of connection to Gaia, as well as connection to God, source, the universe, and human connection of mentors and coaches and therapists and whatever. So it's, but what I've loved the most, like I do love external support on a human level, but there has been points when I have become slightly codependent. And so what's been amazing is developing that like self-support of like, okay, I know my soul and my spirit is supported, but also like I can support my human. So it's like, even if all my mentors were to disappear, my family, my boyfriend, it was just me on my own. And of course, this hasn't happened overnight, but it's like, I've got this. And it's not like some empty affirmation. Like, I really do got this. Like I do. Like I feel it deeply. So, but I love the journey. I love the ebbs and flows and the weaving in and out, like you say, in the spiral. It's I like to approach it with a playful angle sometimes as well.
I love that about you too. My membership that is just finishing up this month that I've had for 2 years that is currently dissolving was called The Playground.
I love
that. It is such an important tool. And that's the thing. Life is supposed to have elements of play and fun and joy, as well as just the seriousness. Even if the serious stuff is going on, it's the counterpoint. It's what gives us the resilience, like the permission to play, to support ourselves, to have some fun, even in the face of disasters, right? Like humor helps us code. Playing and allowing ourselves to have that is one of the most supportive things too. So maybe that is our final message here. It's like, love that work.
Too. We've spoken about so many serious things.
Right? Like it's not, spirit is always going, you guys are too serious. Like when they come in and they speak with me, it's not all somber, it's not all solemn. They're joking around and giggling and laughing and messing with me. Like they have fun. We can have fun with it too.
I love that. Yeah. Get to be and have it all.
Yeah, exactly.
In the now.
And just saying, yes, so much developing to keep going. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here with us, whether you're live or on the replay. I know it's way earlier than I normally will have a conversation, do a live, but it's towards the end of your day. So I will say we could continue this conversation for hours, but I should also probably go play with my kid.
Yeah, go and have fun. I'm going to go have fun too. Everyone go have fun.
Yes, we have 5 days before school starts, so fun is on the agenda.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for this.
Cool.
Thank you for everyone who's
Thank
watching
you
live
so
or the replay.
And if you are really excited about these conversations and want to keep tuning in, feel free to just connect with me, or if this is your first time connecting with Lizzie, what's the best place for people to connect with you?
Yeah, I think you tagged me underneath this post. So yeah, on the live stream. So on Facebook or as Elizabeth Eve Joy Vince, and then I'm on Instagram as Lizzie Vince _. And I'm also actually now on YouTube. I think I'm just Lizzie Vince. I'm like, I can't remember. What is my YouTube? I
I'll get you
believe.
to send it to me and we can put it in
Yeah.
the YouTube notes. So for anyone that's watching on YouTube, you can find that too. And more conversations like this are coming. I have personally been in a cocoon over the last 3 weeks, going through some upgrades and evolutions myself and just starting to come out of it, and excited to share more again with everyone. So
I love
it's
that.
been such a delight. Thank you for this beautiful conversation. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for being here now and for being on this magical ride with us called life.
Yeah, magical carpet ride.
Exactly.
I love that.
Have a
So
beautiful
much
rest
love.
of your day, wherever and whenever you are.